Hello and welcome to the Restricted Area Podcast. Today we talk the NBA Conference Finals coming into shape, the NBA Draft Lottery, and WNBA opening weekend. I'm your host, Alex Perez, joined by producer Colton Smith and co host Logan Hatfield. How we doing?
Better now.
Some better than others.
Better now.
But all in all, I think me and Logan are doing pretty good right now. Having a good time.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think y'all are
Yeah.
pretty excited. I will live vicariously through you all for sure. So let's get into it, boys. NBA playoffs. Well, I guess we'll start with the most recent game if we have to.
Mhm.
The Thunder just defeated the Nuggets in Game 7. An exciting series all around. Some anomaly games, as we talked about last time, but
Mhm.
interesting series nonetheless. Logan, we'll let you go first. What'd you see from your team?
I saw a few things, but I want to just say MVP's win. I just need that to be known. There was a couple games where the fellas that were in contention for that award kind of didn't show up. However, one showed up in Game 7, and the other, I think, might have set a record for most flops I've ever seen in a game, and couldn't score on Alex Caruso. So, you know, I don't know. I
Bro
don't
couldn't
know,
touch
but
the ball with Alex
no,
Caruso.
no, exactly. He was getting swarmed, and the defense was working. Just overall, heck of a series. It's 7 games. You can't really ask for much more. I would hope to never have to watch this team play Denver in a playoff series ever again. Um, they just seem to be able to make very timely shots. I'm never gonna have to worry about seeing Aaron Gordon in my nightmares again. Um, I'm glad it's over, but I'm ecstatic. The team that has been showing up all year finally showed up in Game 7, and that was like kind of what you saw in Game 2. This team has this ability, and the Jalen Williams bounce back that we've been waiting on after he was shooting tour dates through the first few days of the series. Um, he finally bounced back, showed everyone why he was an All Star this year, and then obviously SGA putting up a casual 35. Didn't even look like he was trying out there today. And then, clutch defense from Dort, Wallace, and Caruso, bench players, Wiggins, Casey Wallace again. I mean, they were all showing up today. Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, everyone. It was a team effort, and I'm very excited. Hopefully, the NBA can just go ahead and announce the MVP now. I think that they might have been waiting for this series to be over, but
Definitely.
all in all, I'm very excited. Looking forward to the matchup with Minnesota, and I can't wait to see how far this team goes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Colton.
think that matchup between Minnesota is going to be a really. I think both these conference finals are going to be really really fun because anytime you get the Pacers and the Knicks,
Yeah,
together in a conference final, it's going to be good. And then the Thunder and Timberwolves are two teams that haven't the Timberwolves ever been to a finals, and the Thunder, since they've been called the Thunder, they've only been there once. So. One of those two teams is going to be competing for a championship. And when you look at the Knicks and the Pacers, they also haven't been there for a very long time. So, my first shout I want to give from not only this series or this playoffs, but this game specifically is Aaron Gordon. To be able to not only play on a grade 2 hamstring, you should have been out for a month on, by the way, to be able to play on that. And I'm sure there was a little help from the medical staff there, whatever was given. I won't confirm or deny that, but still to be that guy, maybe one of the toughest players in the league to do that, I would say. Just huge credit. And Aaron Gordon is my favorite player on that team. Always has been. Just a fun player to watch. Just a gritty player. So, yeah, very happy. And I would love to have him in Indy, even though that would never happen. But
Yeah, that
respect,
might be
respect.
my biggest takeaway is Aaron Gordon. I feel like it's kind of criminal what the medical staff did there. They said he was going to be out a month, and then they were like, "Just kidding, he's playing today."
he's starting. Yeah,
Yeah,
they got whatever
uh,
that Patrick Mahomes had there a couple of years ago
I
with
think it
that
was pretty
ankle.
obvious that hamstring tightened up because he had what 8 points in the
Yes.
first quarter, and then finished with 8 points, I believe. So that stinks to see that they put him in that position.
Hmm.
But
Medical
also,
malpractice.
honestly, yeah.
One could say.
And then SGA, as Logan talked about, made it look easy. 35 points on 19 shots. I mean, what else can you ask for in a game seven? Caruso, love him to death. He played his heart out on defense, and
Hmm.
the Thunder just looked better, like they have in every game that they've won, and not the anomaly games. And this was not a surprise for me, but it was a little disappointing that a game seven was not close.
I would agree, but who would have thought like the adjustment of putting Caruso on Jokic would be such a game changing? I thought he kept on like they were like screen switching. Then I realized no, he's just guarding Jokic now. But
Mhm.
it was definitely a team effort on defense, and it kind of came in that second quarter when they switched Caruso on him. But you saw J Dub, you saw Dort getting in those passing lanes, making it difficult, and I just huge shout out to J Dub, by the way, because like you said, he was putting up tour dates. I literally said to start, this game will be very easy if J Dub is the second option that you're looking for. And that's exactly what he did 24 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, and made it look easy. Made it look easy and got in the passing lanes, got to the rim. And I think that's where you guys were at your best in this series was when you weren't just like, oh, Lou Dort got it and shot it. No, when you put the ball on the
Except for game
floor,
five. Except for game five.
except for
He
game
can
five.
shoot every once in game five.
Yes, this is true. But like Case and Wallace getting in the bucket. Case and Wallace having some really great plays there as well. That dunk was whew. Alex Caruso too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shout
Lou
out. Shout
Dort
out to
being a
him.
linebacker and not driving to the rim, I feel like is malpractice. So like they should maybe look into that a little bit more.
I would agree. I would care to agree.
But moving on to another invested series, the Pacers defeated the Cavs in a surprising 5 games. So
Hmm.
Colton, what'd you see from your team?
Yeah, so let me pull up my notes here. I saw a lot because this literally aged like our first episode of the podcast aged so poorly so
So
quickly. Like
bad.
because
Couldn't
we
have
were like,
gone
yeah, the
worse.
Cavs are the Cavs are just gonna come back and like win the series, and then that literally that night, and we didn't post it until Monday, of course, but that night, that's when the Pacers led by 40 at halftime. But hey, in game four, we were right. The Cavs did still out rebound the Pacers in that game, just trailed by 40 at half. Four Pacers players scored double digits in the first half. And how about Indy legend Miles Turner with 18? What an underrated playoff riser. And I feel like the Cavs were just shell shocked in that game. They had nothing they could do. They came to game five and they had a really strong effort in the first quarter. I'm like, okay, like Darius Garland said, they might be the ones to do it. But after that first quarter, Pacers regained control of the game and punched their ticket to their second straight Eastern Conference Finals. But I do want to give a shout out to Donovan Mitchell. I think he was still the best player in this series. I hope the injury is okay, and I hope that next year he doesn't have to run into the Pacers. So then I can root for him to maybe make a deep run. But the Pacers, 42% from deep. That was their shooting percentage from deep in this series. I don't know if we're going to replicate that, but I'm just happy that it happened. Happy to watch such a great one. 6 players average double figures. That's Tyrese, that's Pascal, that's Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith. How about that? A bag of chips in a trade a couple years ago is a starting piece and one of the better utility guys in the league. Andrew Nimhart, Benedict Mathurin, and I got to give shout outs to Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, my glorious king, TJ McConnell, and Thomas Bryant for just making this team such a unit. But the job's not finished. Job finished, job not finished. We got the Knicks coming up. Knicks are looking really hot. We'll talk about them in a moment, but I'm curious what you guys saw from this series.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
well,
Logan.
we all talked about how and Darius Garland, this Cleveland team had the potential to do this 3-1 comeback just because of pure star power. Everyone on the Cavs kind of plays their role really well, and I think, like you guys said, they just got shell shocked. I think the Pacers came out swinging, and Cleveland just didn't have enough firepower to hit them back, which is shocking because that's not what we've seen from Cleveland all year. Um, this has been Cleveland has far away been a top 4 team in the NBA all season in just overall basketball. They play a good team game and they have stars that can take over at any moment. And it was just kind of shocking to me that this was kind of just that easy for Indiana to do. I did not expect that at all, especially after that game in which the Cavs won. I'm like, all right, they're back, and then they weren't. They were never back. I really did think that Cleveland was going to pull the 3-1 comeback. I told everyone that it was going to happen. I'm going to wear that one on the chin. I was wrong, but massive props to Indiana. Massive props to Rick Carlisle. Totally revitalizing his NBA coaching career these past couple of years with Indiana, which I love. Always love a good reclamation story. Rick Carlisle definitely on the comeback, and then just the Pacers and as a whole. You mentioned Miles Turner, and then like we talked about Tyrese Halliburton, completely over the hump now. I think in terms of playoff performance and being called overrated, he's hit it. He hit the top of the ladder, and now he's coming out swinging. He's doing great.
Yeah, I noticed most of the same things. Game 4, if you would have told me that the Cavs were going to shoot 40 free throws, I would have said, sorry, Golden. Um, so it's how Indiana still won by 20, a little bit of a surprise to me. And then you look at the numbers, 35 points off turnovers and 58 points in the paint for the Pacers. So that's really how they got it done, the hustle plays, and then just being a killer in the paint, despite Cleveland having a very formidable front court, obviously. So
Yes.
that was really a surprise to see. I mean, Indiana obviously does too, but
Mhm.
and then game 5, the Cavs just fell apart. I mean, you thought they were gonna maybe even try to make that 3-1 comeback, as Logan was saying, but then they went 9 of 35 from three. So that's pretty hard to come back from, even after you're leading by 19. Once those shots stop falling, leads like that go away really quick, especially in today's NBA. So it was tough to see Cleveland go out in a very heartbreaking way, like kind of like they did last season, honestly.
Yeah.
But all credit to the Pacers. There used to be a team that was like only tough when TJ McConnell came in. Now they're tough no matter who's in the game.
Yes, it's a defensive tenacity, but to your point, I was very surprised in game 5, especially is when I noticed it, like how easily they were getting to the bucket. Because that is like an important part. I feel like that's kind of what separates the Pacers from the Celtics at times is the Celtics are incredibly three-point reliant. So are the Pacers, but they also can get to the bucket. I feel better than the Celtics, but um yeah, I feel like their ability to even with Mobley, like they're just not used. The Cavs were not used to having that much production coming from inside, and it might be Jared Allen might have said it best a couple years ago. Just the lights were a little too bright for everybody, but Donovan Mitchell. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here though. I had us losing to the Bucks, so I'm just happy to be here. Is all I can say. I think that's all I got on the Pacers, though. I'm sure there'll be more to be said next week.
Fair enough. Well, moving back to the West, the Wolves defeated the Dubs in 5 games. We didn't think it was going to make it to game 6, and we were right. Shocking.
Probably
Um,
the only hot take we had from last week. I think everything else was stone cold.
I, I know this is shocking, but the Kaminga 30-point games did not stay consistent.
What? No way.
So, what else did you all see from those games?
Like we mentioned last week, I saw a motivated Julius Randle, and I saw just a motivated Timberwolves team in general. Um, However, the one thing I did notice was at the end of Game 5, and Chris Finch noticed it too. The Wolves just started to play some of the sloppiest basketball I think I've ever seen. Now they were up a lot, and they could afford to do that, but I don't think that was a good tone setter for them exiting that Game 5, not playing like that. And Chris Finch was not happy about it.
Mhm.
I think that at least in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, you're either going to see one of two things from Minnesota. You are going to see a motivated team that Chris Finch might have lit a fire under, or you're going to see a team that comes out playing sloppy. Now, whichever you get, obviously it's a 7-game series, but there's going to be a lot of interesting storylines surrounding Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, well, you talked about it last week with the Thunder, where they came out very sluggish in Game 1. They probably didn't have this sloppy of a game as the Timberwolves did at the end of that series, but Yeah, also, can I just say it feels like a decade ago when that series ended. Like I don't know if I guess I didn't really watch Game 5 that much, so I'm thinking of Game 4, but it feels like a long time ago, and that still just adds to the point of yeah, they're going to be well rested, but they're going to be a little too well rested, especially going up against a Thunder team that, if you ask me, they look like they kind of found themselves in Game 7 of that semifinal game. So. Yeah, the odds are definitely against the Wolves to start, but I think regardless, they will give the Thunder a good fight, and I think it's going to be a really, really fun series. But I don't really have much to say on the Wolves Warriors series because we know Ant's a dog. We know Julius Randle is playing out of his shoes right now, and the Nas Reed, uh, shoot, Jaden McDaniels and like that, the supporting cast is also like just playing very well. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a fun series, and the Warriors are also missing Steph Curry. I do want to ask though, what it's a question we kind of ask every year now as Curry gets older and older. What do they do next year to try and reinvent the wheel, or do they even do that? Like, what do you guys see the Warriors' next move?
They're
Logan.
they're just gonna run it back. I mean, this has been the Warriors' tried and true strategy every single year. Is hey, we got Steph Curry. We're gonna go ahead and throw that same lineup out there and see what happens. Obviously, they made that big swing to go get Jimmy Butler, but if the team can't stay healthy, like I can't remember which analyst said it, but Jimmy Butler was not supposed to win the war. He was just supposed to hold the line to get the Warriors to that game 6 and give them a chance. He couldn't do that. So I don't know if I don't even know what roster construction they could even attempt right now. Because beyond that starting five, I mean, they don't really have that many assets to move. And I don't even know what their money situation looks like right now. I think it's going to be one of the more interesting off seasons you see from a team, especially in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I think the Warriors made a panic move after they failed on all their trade options and went and got Jimmy Butler. I don't think anybody really expected that. It was just kind of a last resort kind of thing. I don't think they go to the same route. If they do, I think it's because they trade Draymond because I feel like that's the only tradable piece that they're willing to part with at this point. They don't have many others. How much can you get for Draymond at this point? Not enough to build a championship contender, I don't think, especially with the roster construction they have right now. So it's looking real bleak in Golden State, in my opinion.
Draymond's going to be a Laker.
Please, God, no. But one thing I did want to point out was the impressive offense from the Wolves: 16 threes in game four, and then 72 points in the paint in game five. That's impressive. That's an impressive in and out game that they may be able to utilize against OKC. So looking ahead to the Western Conference Finals, who we got, Logan?
I feel like it's a homer pick, but I'm going to go ahead and say as a safe pick right now, I'm going to say Oklahoma City in 6. But if the team that shows up in Game 7 shows up, I can't see it going past 5. I like the Timberwolves. I've watched a good amount of Timberwolves basketball this year, especially when they were playing OKC, and they were one of the few teams that consistently gave OKC a fight all year. And I really think that if it just depends on which Timberwolves team you see. It could be the team that lost to the Thunder by a million during the regular season, or it could be the team that was down by 20 in the fourth quarter and came back and won. So, no matter which one you get, I think it's going to be a heck of a series. But as it stands now, I'm going to go Oklahoma City in 6.
Uh, it's weird because it's like I said, it feels like a decade ago that I watched the Wolves last. But I'm really high on that team, and I really just watched OKC. Like I said, seemingly find themselves. So it's really hard for me to make a decision and not feel like it's just recency bias or personal preference. So I think I am going to just go ahead and ride with OKC, but I'm going to put it in 7 because I think it really could go either way. And I feel like if it does go to a Game 7, OKC home court advantage is very different in the playoffs. So, yeah, it's just going to be a fun series. Ant versus Shea for 7 games will just be absolute cinema, and I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, really want to pick the Timberwolves, but after that game seven, I don't see it happening. I got the Thunder, I would say, in six. I'm really interested to see how Julius Randle plays on both sides in this one because that could be the obviously that could be the key in the Timberwolves maybe pulling off the upset, but I don't see it happening with the ability for them to throw Jalen Williams and then Chet or Hartenstein at him. So I think he will be in for a lot more difficult of a series than he has had so far in these playoffs. So I would say, yeah, the Thunder win this one probably in six. And also, I think the bench for the Thunder really helps. I don't think the Timberwolves are as deep as the Thunder on the bench.
Yeah, that you bring up a good point talking about Julius Randle. I think both Randle and Anthony Edwards are going to see starkly different matchups than they saw in the previous series that they've been playing. Specifically, Ant is going to have to deal with Lou Dort, then switching to Casey Wallace, and switching to Alex Caruso, which is going to be three of the toughest defenders he's played all playoffs. And then you talk about Julius Randle. You said it best, switching from those three, and then even getting into the bench, Jay Will coming off the bench, he could probably handle that. That's another thing with like Rudy Gobert. You saw. I mean, I don't mean to bring up bad memories, but when he plays a team that doesn't really have that kind of center that can defend him, he can score. Now the problem is,
Mhm.
can he catch the ball and hold on to it for longer than 3 seconds? With the pesky Thunder defense, I don't think that that's possible for him. I think that the second the ball gets into the lane and they try to hit Rudy Gobert in the paint, it's going to be clogged and that ball is going to go on the other way.
I would
Yeah, no,
agree.
I agree with that.
And moving on to the last series in the East, we will have a new champion this year, boys, because the Knicks defeated Boston in six games. Tatum unfortunately tore his Achilles in that game four, but the Knicks were going to win that game regardless and go up 3-1.
Mhm.
But what did you all see in this one?
I saw the Knicks team that I thought was going to come out earlier in the year. It just took 82 games and a playoff series against the Pistons for it to come out. I mean, Jalen Brunson still an absolute bucket. 26 points per game in that series. Cat is definitely taking that second option role very well, and then I feel like Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges are all just kind of rotating in that third spot offensively, but they're also making outstanding plays on the defensive end and just all around hustle plays. That starting five might be the best in basketball. I think it is with the Celtics out now. I think the Thunder are a close second, but in my opinion, they got the best starting five. Now that you need more than a starting five, and I do think they have some nice bench pieces if Tibbs will use them. But what I saw in this series is the Celtics live by the three, die by the three, and they finally died by it. We've kind of been waiting for that. Haven't had that in about a year and a half. So may they rest in peace by the three.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that that 3 point shooting when you look at like especially those regular season games and the early playoff games, that was Celtics basketball, was shooting upwards of 40 53s a game. And even when I one of the games they played against the Thunder in the regular season, they shot like over 63s. And I would that's a it's a mind-boggling like offensive strategy, but when it works, it looks genius. The 3 point line exists for a reason. You get more points when you score behind it. So that's their philosophy. And like you said, they lived by it and they died by it. I do think that I originally had the Celtics coming back, but once Tatum went down, and even after what I was watching in Game 4, I was like, I don't think that this Celtics team has like the morale to will themselves to win this series. Even if it went back to Boston for a Game 7, I don't think that they had enough in the tank. And you got to see that Knicks home crowd isn't half bad. They show up. They don't wear the shirts. They're all just trying to show off like $3,000 Balenciaga fits, but it, it
Get the fit
it,
off.
it works. It works. It works.
Timothy.
Shout out Timmy. But yeah, I respect what the Knicks pulled off this series. And if you would have told me in 2015 that Carl Anthony Towns was going to be arguably one of the best number two options that we've ever seen, I would have told you were crazy. I would have thought he would have been the MVP by now. But here we are. I mean, Cat's still an All NBA level player. It's just he just happens to be sharing the court with Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, Game 5 was definitely a moral victory for the Celtics. Even after that, it was an impressive win, but you're like, they're still not coming back. It doesn't
Nope,
matter.
nope.
Derek White
And
legacy game.
Yeah,
that's another point I wanted to bring up because they had Derek White, Drew Holiday, Tatum, and Jalen Brown that they could all throw at Brunson, and he was like, "Cool, don't care. I'm scoring." And that was the biggest takeaway I saw from it is Brunson can score whenever he wants to, and that makes the next series very interesting, which is the Eastern Conference Finals, a rivalry renewed between the Pacers and the Knicks. So before I make my pick, I'll let you all say who you got.
Colton, I'll let you take this one.
All right, all right. So I've been against the Pacers like in terms of picks here the whole time. I just don't want to side anywhere. I'll put it this way. I think if this series goes to 5 games, that means the Knicks won. If this series goes to 7 games, I think the Pacers won. I think what they both have, their strengths and weaknesses perfectly go the opposite. Like the Pacers are a very deep team. They can realistically play 10 to 11 players a game, depending upon what matchups they're trying to do. And the Knicks, I think they have good depth, but they don't use that depth. So if they ever have to rely on that depth, they're going to be in a really tough spot. And the Pacers have that ability to wear them out. And if we're hitting, we don't have to hit 42% from three, but if we can get in that area um, against this Knicks team who isn't the best 3-point shooting team, we can absolutely bury them. But like I said, I think they got the best starting 5 in the NBA right now, and I think that it will pose a problem to the Pacers. But the thing is, the Pacers have a really good starting 5 as well, and they'll get some rest, and we can still get production while while they're getting rest because we have some good bench pieces, and so it really can go either way, and I think it just depends upon what wins out. Do the Pacers are they still hitting a lot of threes? Are they still able to get to the bucket and score like they were able to do against the Cavs? Or do the Knicks work that same magic they did against the Celtics, where the Celtics weren't hitting shots that well and just didn't have that much offense? And will the Knicks be hitting their shots? So it's going to be a really fun chess match between two really great coaches. And I'm excited to see how it all plays out. And God, the Garden is going to be, what is Tyrese going to do? Does he
Does he take the Trey
maybe.
Young approach?
We already know they don't like him. We saw what happened to a guy just wearing his jersey. So
Mm.
wonder what
Yeah.
happens when the real thing's there. But I'll leave it at that.
So Colton, I agree with a lot of what you said, and I do think that after game one, I think we're going to learn a lot based on what we're going to see. I
Yes.
know it's going to be a small sample size, but I think it's going to take me one game to make a final pick. However, as it stands, I want to just kind of go with what my heart says. And right now, my heart says Knicks in 7. I do think this one goes the distance, and I think that Jalen Brunson is going to show why he was the clutch player of the year. And I think, that game 7 comes down to a close game, and the Garden's going to be behind him. And I think that Jalen Brunson's going to have yet another fourth quarter takeover and show just why he was, in fact, the clutchest player in the NBA this year. And as it stands, I'm going to go Knicks in 7.
I think I'm gonna have to go the same way. I'll say Knicks in 6. I think Jalen Brunson and Halliburton will cancel each other out if Brunson doesn't even get the slightest edge in that. And then if you're telling me Miles Turner versus Cat, I think I'm picking Cat. Um, so that matchup is pretty tough. The bench situation will be interesting because, as Logan said, will Tibbs even let them play? So they have a not the deepest bench. So will it get exposed? We don't know. They probably won't play. But I like them just because they're stars and because, as you mentioned, Colton, the Garden will be rocking, and the away games won't be as tough as the away games will be for the Pacers, in my opinion. So I got the Knicks in 6.
Okay. Yeah, the one storyline I would keep an eye on though with Cat We know he likes to foul. He's been better about it this year. The Pacers did bait Allen and Mobley a bit on the fouls. So I'm curious to see if they're able to do that to Cat, or if Cat has officially cleaned that part of his game up.
That would be very interesting. Well, let's get into something else that happened in the NBA this week. The draft happened, boys. The draft lottery. It was interesting. Despite a 1.8% chance to get the number one pick, Dallas got it. Um, Let me run you through the order real quick. Dallas is one, San Antonio second, 76ers third, Charlotte fourth, Utah fifth, Washington sixth, New Orleans seventh, eighth Nets, nine Toronto, 10 Houston, 11 Portland, 12 Chicago, 13 Atlanta, and 14 San Antonio again. So the big question we've heard all week, fellas, is the draft rigged?
Um. Okay. So, I in the past, I do believe it has been. Obviously, you got the frozen envelopes and the bent corners and all that. Like, why do you think Patrick Ewing played for the Knicks? Come on, New York needed a star. But I think in this case, if it were to have been rigged, that just means Adam Silver made the boss call and said, "Hey, I understand tanking, but like that's not what the fans are paying to watch." And then decided to, be like, "Hey, these top four teams that had all these terrible records, yeah, we're gonna flip that on its head, and then we're gonna give this to teams that were like literal play-in contenders." Like it was insane. I saw the final four that it ended up being. I saw Mavericks, I saw Spurs, I saw Sixers, and I saw Hornets. I disregard the Hornets in that, but I was like, this is like the worst possible outcome. If it would have gone to the Sixers, I don't think I would have tuned into the draft. That was the team I wanted least to get it. Now, is this Adam Silver telling Nico Harrison, "Thank you for sending Luka to LA"? Who knows? However, this is huge for Dallas. Nico Harrison's job just survived another year against all odds. Obviously, he didn't make this happen, but he's got a chance to bring a generational talent to Dallas, and I think Cooper Flag's going to fit in really well. I think that Dallas, that's going to be some immaculate floor spacing they're going to be able to pull off with these lineups, and that's going to be a scary team. They're bringing in a top tier two-way player to join that roster, and I think Dallas immediately rejoins the contender talk in the West.
I'm just going to find my tinfoil hat somewhere around here and put it on later. But I mean, come on. The Luka Doncic trade was literally the most unexplainable thing that has ever happened in my lifetime. I think in anything. And now we have an explanation. He did not trade Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis. He traded Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis and Cooper Flag and Max Christian. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, I'm not necessarily. I know like the NBA has been rigged in the past. Like Ewing on the Knicks. There's talks about the D Rose on the Bulls. So it's not necessarily anything new. I just wish they wouldn't be so damn obvious about it. Like, it just kind of undermines the game a little bit. But whatever. Cooper Flag in Dallas. It's still an interesting timeline for me because Kyrie's going to be out until what, April, May? Well, not May. I mean, what's the March? Like March or April of next year. And that's a friendly timeline. Anthony Davis, no offense, he's day-to-day Davis. Hopefully he isn't that next year. But he's only getting older, so I find the timeline interesting, but this is still a good team built for Luka Doncic. That has some, if they stay healthy, some good solid pieces that with Cooper Flag in his rookie year, I don't know how far they'll go, but yeah, if everyone stays healthy, this could be a sneaky team.
Yeah, if my glorious King LeBron James is questioning it on the Pat McAfee show, I think I have means to question it. Now, am I mad about it? I don't think so, because I hate tanking, so I feel like this discourages it. Just be authentically
I would
bad.
agree.
Be as bad as you actually are, not purposefully bad. And then he might get
Raptors.
the number one
Sorry.
pick. Yeah, for sure. But good for Dallas. I love that. Um, but I mean, we still got the better end of the deal, no matter what.
I am happy for the fans though, because the fans were in a really dark place. And it's like the Mavericks have been a team I've never really had any beef with. Like I feel like they had Dirk, they had Luca, two fun players to watch. And so long as you're not a Heat fan, I feel like you're pretty chill with them. So I was always felt bad. Like they really had their 10 years of Luka Doncic and just ripped from him. So hopefully Cooper Flag replace some of that. I will say I don't think he's going to be as good as Luka Doncic, but he'll sure will be up there and be a great player. So yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't even thinking about how long Kyrie might be out in this next season, so that does make me a little more happy for Dallas. I will give them that. But
But
moving.
we probably should mention the Spurs, right?
Oh yeah, the
Because they got the
Spurs.
second pick.
Mhm.
What do you guys? I just want to hear what you guys think they'll do with that second pick. Are they going to use it or trade it?
They're gonna use it. They're gonna use it. They're getting Dylan
On?
Harper.
Okay.
Dylan
Alex?
Harper.
I would agree if they use it, they will use it on Harper. I want them to trade it so bad for Giannis just because I want the Spurs to be like a killer. But I don't think that's actually going to happen. The Spurs make moves for their future and not for right now. So they're going to end up using it.
Could
What
you
about
imagine
D-Book?
though? Mitch Johnson gets his first full year coaching, and he has Giannis and Wemby on the same team.
Can you just imagine being the opposing team as Giannis checks out and Wimby checks back in like the second quarter or something? Like that's demoralizing.
Or you're trying to score in the paint at the beginning of the game or the end of the game because they'll both be in there. That would be
Yeah.
not fun.
No,
But yeah,
Yeah.
I see
I
them
like the
using it.
Devin Booker fit though. I
That would
like
be
that a
very
lot.
nice.
If
D-Book
the
fits
Suns are
anywhere.
doing
If we're being honest, he fits anywhere.
this is
He
I
will
feel
true.
like
play. He will play exactly the role he needs to.
I feel like if D Book was going to leave, he would have left already though.
This is true.
But
Keep that shirt down.
moving on to Foul or Flop, where we bring our favorite quote of the week, and then we will debate whether it's a foul, whether they have a point, or flop, whether they're selling baloney. So, for my quote this week, I have Podcast P. He is back in the booth. I don't know if you all saw,
Not
uh,
podcast B.
but he said if it wasn't for LeBron, he would have got one in Indiana. Um, Fellas, let's break down who he would have had to beat if that were the case. The Mavs with Dirk, nope. KD, Russ, and Harden, nope. The Spurs, just the big three: Manu, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Kawhi in some years. Anyways, and the Curry Avengers. So, where does he get that? I'm not thinking he does. So this is a flop for me. Would you all agree?
Yeah, yeah. I think that would be. I think he could have gotten to a final. Sure, it would have been fun, but there's no way any of those Pacers teams handle a series against any of those opponents that LeBron had to play. It's a flop for me.
Sure, you sure are putting me on the spot here, huh? Sure. Why not? That's why I hate the LeBron and the Heat, right? Because they stopped me from getting a championship, right? Sure.
Yeah, you could definitely win a championship with Roy Hibbert as your second best player for sure.
Absolutely.
Hey, respect David West.
Yeah, okay, that's
Yeah,
fair. You're right.
respect
You're
my
right.
boy Davey. Yeah, for sure.
All right, Colin, you want to go next?
All right, I'm keeping it with the Pacers, specifically Pacers fans who decided to chant, "We want Boston," even though at the time of the chant, Boston was down 3-1. Pacers fans, I don't know what to say. We're an interesting group of fellas. That's all. Also flop. I don't think you can even. I don't think you can steer that a foul.
I'm going flop on that one as well. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, flop. They saw how bad Boston could be, and they were like, "We want that, please."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
I
definitely a
guess if
flop
you
on
look
that
at it
one.
that way, yeah, it does. That's valid. I would rather play a Jason Tatumless Celtics than the Knicks right now.
So
Logan.
for mine, I got a quote coming from Jaylen Brown in his post game interview after Game 6. Now I feel like to choose foul or flop on this one, you'd have to put yourself in his shoes. So his quote was, "Losing to the Knicks feels like death." Um, Putting myself in his shoes, I think that would absolutely be a foul. I think that has some merit to it, especially as a Celtics player specifically. And like being in the same division, constantly playing in the playoffs. I do think that Jaylen Brown has some merit in saying that. Now, there were some factors that I think altered this series for sure, but I definitely can understand where he's coming from, and I think that's why I'm going to go foul on
I would probably go foul on that as well. I think that's definitely a foul.
I would go foul on a couple facets. One, because I feel like playing the Knicks hurts, because they're a very defensive team and playing them is like a knife fight. But
Yes.
besides that, Knicks fans are very annoying. So you have to
that.
hear that afterwards too. So that's definitely a foul on that one.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a video of a guy walking up to like a New York police officer before Game 6. He said, "If we win, there's not enough of you."
I did not see that. That's
Oh
awesome.
man, it was making me laugh.
Would expect nothing less from that crowd.
No.
So opening weekend happened this weekend in the WNBA, and it was an
Hmm.
exciting slate of weekend games. To update the standings a little bit, Washington is now 2-0, Indiana's 1-0, Phoenix 1-0, LA, Minnesota, New York are all 1-0, and the 0-1 teams are Atlanta, Connecticut, Las Vegas, Dallas, Golden State, Seattle, and Chicago. So, do any games stand out from the opening weekend from you all?
I feel like it would be really hard to say that the Fever Sky game didn't stand out. Not because of the final score. I mean that was expected. I really did think that. I think Indiana was going to come out hot. By the way, Fever looked really good.
Mhm.
But I think it's what happened between the lines in that one. How everyone was kind of talking up the rivalry between Clark and Reese, and then you saw it kind of come to a boiling point for a second there. You know, Looking back on the replay, it's you can think one thing or another, but it was a tough foul. And then obviously Angel Reese took exception to it, and that was kind of my big thing. I think we are witnessing what is really becoming an all-time WNBA rivalry between two players that they'll try to tell you otherwise, but I just quite frankly don't think they like each other all that much. And I think that's what the W needs. I think they need some of that animosity. They need some of that kind of and they need that edge, and I think they're getting it right now with this rivalry that we're seeing.
Yeah, my only comment is there hasn't been much of a rivalry in the WNBA, especially yesterday. Uh,
Yeah.
what a final score! I mean, and we were going to talk about overreactions, and I'll just go ahead and give you mine. Like, do you think the Fever really need that adjustment period that we talked about might get them lower in the standings? I mean, right out the gates, first game of the year, dropping 93. That team looks scary. That team looks scary. And Caitlin Clark already, what was it, tied third all time in triple doubles now. Um, and what her first game of her second season. So pretty impressive stuff from her. And yeah, it's I agree. Like this rivalry will be huge, and the sky will catch up eventually. But it's been a rough start for the Chicago side of things.
For sure. I did like the way Indiana started as a Fever fan. Almost won by 40, and Sophie Cunningham didn't even play. A big acquisition from
Oh, I
this
missed that
offseason.
part. Dang,
Yeah, she didn't even play. Shout out to Dewana Bonner as well. Moved into third all time on the all time scoring list. But Chicago, we have to talk about what are you doing because you all still have not addressed the shooting issues. Haley Van Lith played 4 minutes and
scored four
scored four
points.
points in those 4 minutes. So I'm not very
It's a
good at
point a minute.
math, but that's a pretty good rate. Feel like maybe she should have been in the game a little bit more. Other things that stood out from me very quickly: the Mystics, Sonia Citron, averaging 17 points a game as a rookie. There might be a little bit more of a rookie of the year competition than we thought.
Hmm.
And then
Nope. I'm sorry.
the biggest game of the weekend, the Liberty and the Aces. Liberty winning 92-78, even though Sabrina only had 8. Uh, Stewie had 25, and Natasha Cloud with a phenomenal debut for them. She had 22. I didn't think she would make that big of a difference over Courtney Vandersloot, but wow, did she? Um, and then Las Vegas has some big problems in the front court. Asia Wilson, phenomenal. There's nobody else. Kia Stokes put up 0 in 18 minutes. Gustafson is injured. Who knows when she'll be back? Liz Kitley is injured. Who knows when she'll be back? They have to figure out what's going on there, or they won't even be competitive this year.
Yeah, I will say the Liberty. That was another one of the notes I make. That I made. I was watching that Liberty game. I'd kind of woken up. It was a slow morning for me, but I fired on the Liberty game and they look good. Like you said, I kind of didn't know what to expect from Brianna Stewart. But I really like. I think Brianna Stewart is stepping up a lot more now, and I think it's a good start for her. And yeah, you're seeing. I don't think the Liberty need Sloot. I wrote her down as my biggest disappointment for the week, actually, after how she just kind of got walked all over by the Fever. Um, she did not look good in her Chicago Sky debut. And I think as the season progresses, she might start losing some minutes to HVL. I don't know. But if you're supposed to be like a prize acquisition for the Sky, she's got to step up more. I get it. You had to guard Caitlin Clark, but still, I mean, they were kind of getting whatever they wanted on her, and she wasn't really doing as much on offense as she needed to. So I think that's why Sloot's my biggest disappointment for the week.
And Courtney is not young anymore, so that's a tough matchup for her to have all around. But as we talked
Hmm.
about, we do have some overreactions because there's no better time for overreactions than after opening weekend. So, what do you all got?
Kelsey Plum is going for first team. I'm sorry,
Okay, okay,
37 in the opener. No, I
yeah,
did. I am looking right now as the Sparks just lost. She did put up 16 in this one, but I still think Kelsey Plum's going for first team.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that overreaction. And I mentioned I gave mine away earlier. I feel like this Fever team maybe will just hit the ground running and not need that adjustment period. I mean, it's just one game. It's just an overreaction. I don't necessarily believe it, but after the first game, they looked pretty damn good.
yeah. I have about 3 overreactions. One is the Fever won't lose a game. They're going 10 deep, um, and they look good at every spot. So I don't really see a reason why they lose a game. Another one, the Valkyries may not win a game. Uh, they scored 67 points in their opener, and they have made some dumb management decisions, cutting Cheyenne Sellers and Letitia Amir. What are you doing? And then Sonia Citron maybe winning Rookie of the Year, but I know that one's an overreaction for sure. And then let's see, we got some games to pick for this week, so we can see who really knows ball. I got a couple
Yeah.
games for this week to start us out. Liberty and Fever at the Fever Saturday at 1. Who you got, Colton?
That's gonna be a good one. Do I go with the overreaction and the Fever are going to hit the ground running and never lose a game, or do I go with the Liberty who are more established and looked really good in their first game as well? I think I'm going to go side with reason and go with the Liberty on this one, but it's going to be a close one. It's going to be a good one, and I'm excited to tune into that one.
I'm also leaning Liberty in this one. If you ask me how this game's going to go at the end of the season or potentially in the playoffs, I might have a different answer for you. But I think right now I got to go with the Liberty. Reigning champions, most experienced team. I gotta give them their credit, and I think they take this one.
This is not a biased pick at all. I think the Fever win this one. Um, I think they get back for the openings season opener last season where they got thumped by the Liberty. So I think they definitely still remember that one. I think the starters kind of cancel each other out, and I think Indiana's bench is a little deeper, and obviously they're not going to lose the game, so they have to win this one. So I got them here.
You bring up a good point.
And then for the second one on Sunday at 6, the Sparks play the Sky. So, Logan, who you got?
Um, After this may be another overreaction, but after that opening game, if the Sky aren't really going to be clicking, I think I can't go against the Sparks in this one. Like I said, I think Kelsey Plum is taking a huge leap this year, which is crazy to say, but I think Kelsey Plum's going to lead them to another win. Expect another 30-point performance out of her in that one because I don't know if there's going to be much friction on her on defense. So I'll go with the Sparks.
Good call.
Yeah, I feel like this matchup maybe looked a little closer before the first weekend, but I think either way, I probably still would have gone with the Sparks, and especially after the spark, I guess you could say, you saw from Plum to start off the year, like that. Yeah, I think absolutely she's probably the best player in this game, and I'm saying in this specific game, not just the WNBA, but I mean, hey, all in could be all first team. Um, yeah. So yeah, give me the Sparks on this one. I'm going with again the more, I guess not as established team, but they're getting there, and I think they'll make some noise in the playoffs. I think we didn't talk about them maybe as much as we should have.
Yeah, I would also go with the Sparks in this one. I feel like Hamby will be able to obviously not shut down, but contain the paint where Chicago may have the advantage with Cardoso and Reese down there. But I think neither of these teams are very deep. So I'm going to go with the team with the best offensive threats, and that would be De'Erica Hamby, Kelsey Plum, and the other options they have on this team. And I think the Sparks pull this one out. It'll probably be close, but I think the Sparks win this one. So now time for our shooting star, where we pick our baller of the week. We may have a similar one this week, but Colton, what you got?
No, I actually went with Aaron Gordon. I feel like unless
Okay.
you guys both went that same direction, but I think I just respect the hell out of people that, especially in today's NBA, where like a sprained toe will get you out for a couple weeks. Not so much in the playoffs, but still just to play through that injury, a very gruesome injury, a grade 2. I feel like a lot of players would not have played through that. Did it end up working out for him? No, but highly respect that.
On my end, I will go ahead and give Aaron Gordon his flowers. I think that was tough, and what he did was very respectable. However, I'm hard pressed to go against anybody else for my shooting star of the week because there was some
Most
questions.
shocking one of so far.
There were some questions surrounding his playoff legitimacy, and as I mean, they were valid. Some of those games in the beginning were looking kind of rough. However, SGA stepped up, and I think we just saw the birth of Game 7 SGA today. I think that's going to be a common theme if OKC gets into more Game 7s in the coming years. You're gonna start seeing Game 7 SGA, and watching something like that really heals like my inner child from hearing all about Game 6 Clay. All this and that. I do think that despite all of the phenomenal performances and storylines, shout out Jamal Murray playing through the flu, but I got to go with SGA in this one. He stepped up and started putting up big time scoring performances and took over 2 out of 3 of those last 3 games. So I got to give him his flowers.
Well, I really thought we were all going to have the same one, but mine is Kelsey Plum, who had 37 points in the season opener, the most in WNBA history. Nafisa Collier had it for about 4 minutes in the game before. But KP also added 6 assists and 5 steals in this game. So just an unbelievable performance from her, and kind of showed that the Sparks could be more formidable than we may have gave them credit for this upcoming season. So that's my shooting star for the week. And I guess anybody got any last words? Any final thoughts?
Go Pacers.
Thunder up.
I'll see you next year, Lakers. That'll do it for this edition of the Restricted Area Podcast. Subscribe to the CX Podcast Network for more sports talk like NASCAR and the MLB. Follow us on Twitter, me at the Will Dill, Colton at Colt.45. That's 3 T's, by the way. Logan, tell the people where you can find them out.
Logan H_4. That is actually, if you're looking for a handle anywhere, I think that's what it is everywhere. So.
And that will do it for this episode. So thanks for listening, and we will see you in the next one. Peace, move.